What's up, everybody? I am Kay Marie.
I am Lou.
I'm Mary.
And we are
Murked in the Midwest.
Okay, so, what do you take when you get a headache?
Tylenol or ibuprofen?
Really? Lou?
I do Tylenol or
Now.
No.
or sometimes Excedrin if it's real bad. If
For
it's
me,
bad.
yeah, for me, mines are typically migraines, so I take the Excedrin migraine.
Mm-hmm.
That's all. I feel like I've always felt like Tylenol was a placebos.
I feel like with Tylenol, when you get it, Tylenol is like one of those things it works fast, but when you buy it, you kind of side eye it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Like you be like, today may be the day.
It might be the day.
They put a little something different up in this.
It smells funny.
I just want to say, I know there are people that like smell their food and stuff before they eat it. If you smell your like medication and stuff before you take it, I don't know if I could. What have you experienced in life to where you feel like you got to sniff your Tylenol?
But you know what? It could save your life.
Mm-hmm.
While we talk stuff about it, it could save your life. But I know there's some pills I cannot smell. Like if I smell them before they go in, I can't take them.
Mm.
Like, have y'all ever took green tea supplement?
Mm-hmm.
I can't sniff that, and I like green tea.
The worst ones to me is spironolactone. It's for like acne treatment, and it basically smells like an Andes mint.
Oh God!
I take it every day, and like when I smell it, it literally smells like Andes mint.
No, thank you.
And then another one is cod liver oil.
Oh girl! Oh no!
And then oh no. My God! Don't let you have to belch later in the day, especially if it's the oil one.
Remember when y'all? Okay, so I don't know if y'all parents would do this too. They'd be like, "Okay," you be like, I feel like, and they'd be like, "Here, take this," and they had a spoon, and you don't know what it is,
no,
and you shouldn't trust them because it's gonna be bad.
Most
it's gonna
cases,
taste awful.
In my mama case, it was that Father John.
Father John.
Bernice loved to give you a teaspoonful of that nasty stuff, and the other one,
it was like chocolate fish, damn near.
Disgusting.
That's what Father John's is like. If you didn't grow up in the late 80s, early 90s, and you don't know what Father John's is, consider yourself blessed.
Very.
It was awful.
And then that other stuff, the antibiotic that would be in the liquid, but it looked like milk.
That's penicillin. Yeah.
But you know the one that the other antibiotic, the pink one.
That tastes like bubble gum.
That one was good.
Yeah, I can handle that.
It's crazy as his kids. It's mostly they love it. They would love it. I'm like, look at them little crackheads. Like my doctor always gave it, and I used to get so happy. Like, yes, I'm getting this, Mama. I think I got a sore throat.
That's like the little ones when they want they vitamins. Now they in gummies. They're like, I need you to have 5 gummies. I think you are over. All your minerals are good.
Man,
good for the day. Actually.
And I don't know if they changed the formula on it or what, but the Flintstones vitamins, I used to love those as a kid. I tried one as an adult, and I was like, this tastes like baby powder, compacted with a little bit of food color. It was awful.
But you know what? Our tastes change too. So as you age, your tastes evolve. So maybe it was real good.
So much sense, but I'm gonna just stick with they changed the formula.
They could have. I do still like me a chewable vitamin C though. I do that every day.
Yeah,
they're really good. Between September and October of 1982, 7 known deaths were linked to tainted Tylenol pills. At the time of the deaths, there was little known of what was happening, which caused massive waves of panic that extended nationwide. People were frightened to even participate in things. Halloween was almost canceled. The perpetrators of these heinous crimes, which remain unidentified and widely speculated to this day, would forever change worldwide over-the-counter medication sales and manufacturing practices forever. In 1884, 2 German physicists, Arnold Kahn and Paul Heap, are credited with the discovery of the use of Tylenol.
Shout out, y'all.
Thank y'all. Thank you for doing a good job. They were attempting, well, what they were trying to do was cure infestations of worms. So if you can imagine, wow. Imagine you're back in this time and you're in some kind of war and you got a bullet to the leg and now you got little maggots and stuff just eating up your leg. Yeah. And they were just trying to make sure that didn't happen, because that's pretty gross. And it never did cure the infestations. However, what they did find, when you have that type of infection or infestation, you're going to get other problems too. You're going to have fevers. You're going to have blah, 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 blah. But what they found is that this medication reduced patient fevers. And after the discovery of its usage, it became a popular over-the-counter drug of choice in the following subsequent years.
Acetaminophen.
Yes, give me some acetaminophen. I need that. And it has all types of uses. It's for everyday people. It can be used to temporarily fix fevers, pain, moderate pain, headaches, cramps. Yes. So it's just a good general type of drug.
It don't fix relationship problems.
No, you got that. You need to call Jesus.
You need a drug for that. Get some Coke. I'm just kidding. I don't condone Coke.
She was talking about Coca-Cola people.
Coca-Cola back in the 1800s.
I'm a Pepsi girl. I'm a Pepsi girl. Shout out, babe. No.
Oh, God.
Throughout the manufacturing, though, Tylenol, it was managed by this company called McKinley Pharmaceuticals, which was a fully family-run company, and it was established in 1879.
Wait, no. That's McNeil.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, my bad.
McNeil Pharmaceutical, right?
McNeil, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
McNeil Pharmaceuticals, and it was established in 1879. And just some interesting facts about it. It was actually the gentleman who founded this company. When he founded it with like $3,000, which, I mean, and if you think about a pharmaceutical company starting anything with $3,000, that's not even going to get you the pure raw product.
But in 1800s,
it was different money, different times, and he was only 26 years old.
Shout out, yes. Young entrepreneur.
There you go. Yep, and he made something that his family kept within their family for 80 years, and till the acquisition when Johnson & Johnson took them over.
Oh, that's where they fucked up.
That's where
Johnson.
See, I want
Johnson.
I want to let y'all know that a lot of things Johnson & Johnson don't sue me. This is allegedly and on my opinion. This is not anything that I can factually back up, but I mean, everybody can look and read. But lots of things happen when Johnson & Johnson get their hands on things.
All I want to say is, real off topic, if you going to somebody's baby shower, don't bring them no Johnson & Johnson. Get a Vino.
Yeah, why are we trying to kill the babies?
Like,
right. That's why you're supposed to like
there's so many different options that you can do. Just don't do Johnson & Johnson.
Yeah, anything.
Just don't do Johnson & Johnson. And then also shout out to him, 26-year-old entrepreneur, which made me think we finna start shouting out some entrepreneurs up on here.
Hey,
yeah,
we finna start shouting out some entrepreneurs on here. So if you want to be shouted out, just go ahead and send us information. Y'all know how to get in touch with us, and we'll tell you again at the end of the episode.
Yep. So anyways, at this point in time, when it was a family-owned business, it was pretty well known on that this medication worked for all the things that we listed. But then when Johnson & Johnson acquired it, they, of course, did their normal conglomerate take over the world thing where they're advertising the heck out of it. And it really became like a widely used household brand. And so it would become something that pretty much nowadays your doctors will almost automatically tell you if you call them and say your baby have a fever, they're like, did you give them Tylenol?
Alternate between Tylenol and Motrin.
Or if you call in and you say I'm having a toothache, they're gonna say, did you take some
Tylenol until you go to your dentist?
And so it really just became a huge household name that people knew you can use for minor aches, pains, cramps, headaches, and even for some people use it for like menstrual relief of other problems, not just the cramping that comes with menstrual cycles. So that's really just pretty much the background on Tylenol and its uses.
And another thing with Tylenol I learned.
What's that?
So I do this thing, and maybe everybody could try it, should try it. I buy myself weekly flowers, like especially roses. You can actually, once you cut the stems of the roses, you put Tylenol in it to help it last longer. So just a thought.
It's something in it. I don't know what that is.
Last longer.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we're gonna get into the actual, like, what was happening with this whole Tylenol situation and why.
Yeah, these events are very tragic and very yes, it was very mysterious and still mysterious to this day, because it's just like how
Why?
But when you hear, which we are about to get into, the simpleness of what was going on in these people's lives, it really makes you think and take a pause. Like, this could have been absolutely anybody, one of us, someone you knew, and it may have been someone that you knew if you're listening. And just doing a regular everyday activity, got them. So our first victim, Miss Mary Kellerman, was born March 9th, 1970 to Dennis and
Leon or
Gina
Gina
Kellerman. She was said to be a loving, active preteen. She was also gymnastics, and she played guitar and Atari. Like, she had the normal kid activities, but the best one that she had, which I loved, is that girl likes to ride her pony. And I've been asking for a pony for forever, just for real, just sidebar. But she likes to ride her pony, and she would help her mom cook, and she loved her family pets. Which they had like a little baby zoo. They had 3 dogs and a goldfish.
Little baby zoo.
Baby zoo. And it was just reported, getting into the actual events of what happened with this young lady, was she had been experiencing cold-like symptoms, and she had told her parents that she had been having like a minor cough and was feeling a little warm, and her body was aching. So, like,
typical, like, okay, you got a fever coming on, you flu, whatever the case may be.
And it was flu season. We're in September, you know. So she's feeling like that's coming on, and at 4 p.m. on Saturday the 28th, after telling her parents that she was feeling unwell, her mom stopped at the local Jewel Osco store in Elk Grove Village at the corner of Arlington Heights and Blisterfield Road, and her mom bought a 50-count bottle of extra-strength Tylenol capsules. And then at approximately 6:15 of September 29th, and this is in the morning now. So at 6:15 a.m., she takes one capsule, and of that recently purchased Tylenol at her home in Elk Grove, and she collapses.
What?
Okay. So at about 9:56 a.m., she was pronounced dead at Alexian Brothers Medical Center in Elk Grove Village. So within basically
3 hours,
three and a half hours, from collapsing in her home to getting to the hospital, she was gone.
But you know what's scary, especially with Tylenol? Like, pharmacy is already a big thing, as it is. But it's scary that during that time, that was like 1982, right?
Yeah.
Like, Tylenol controlled 35%.
Yeah.
35% of the pharmacy industry.
Well, you figure a lot of the new types of medicines that we have, they weren't widely known. Like, I believe Aleve was a medicine at that time, but it wasn't a go-to. They did have ibuprofen, which had been a go-to. So that was like a standard, take ibuprofen, whatever. And then they had another one that is now defunct, brand. It was called Capsaicin or something like that. Capsaicin.
I think it's smaller. It's not as grand. It's like even the off brand like they downsized tremendously. If you can look and see a bottle if you're looking hard enough.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
And then of course aspirin, which was I think like your oldest painkiller. Yeah. But those were really, they didn't have everything under the sun like we have. And you figure back then with the discovery of these pharmaceuticals, people knew about natural remedies, but people weren't really checking for natural remedies like we do now. Like, rub a little spearmint oil for you.
Spearmint oil, smelling the peppermint oil. Yeah. Old school.
So this young lady died within about 3-4 hours of her taking a Tylenol pill.
As a mom, girl, for your daughter to come to you saying, your kid, whatever, to come to you saying, "Ma, I don't feel well. This is what's going on." You take the list of symptoms and you're like, "Don't worry, Mama got you. We gonna get you feeling better." And you go to the store that you always go to get the medicine you always give for them, and you give it to them, and they die.
Yeah. And it's not like you were doing any type of experimental, we'll try this, see if that helps. You did exactly what your doctor would have told you to do. And you go to a store that everyone in the Midwest knows what it, I mean, Jewel Osco that's it. You have the stores that have the pharmacies in them. Before Walmart had a pharmacy in it, Jewel Osco was it.
And if you had them hood parents, you didn't have the Tylenol with the aspirin because that was more of a expensive thing. You had ginger ale and go lay down.
Yep.
Ginger ale and go lay down.
My stomach hurt. Did you use the bathroom? Ma.
Did you drink some ginger ale? Yeah. Did you go lay down? That's a big part of it.
Did you have a saltine cracker?
Oh, the saltine crackers. That was, honestly though, I'm still here.
I'm telling you, it worked. So then we have our next victim, Mr. Adam Janis, who was born March 7th, 1955 in Taranau, Poland. He came to America with his family when he was 8 years old. And later on in life, as an adult, he married Miss Teresa Janis.
Another Pisces.
Girl, listen, I was told, we love you, Pisces. Now, if she want to go off on a tangent, that is on her.
But Pisces, y'all all right with me. Y'all all right. Shout out to my god sister, Tanisha. Love you.
Now, they had 2 children together, Kathy and Thomas Janis, who they raised in their Arlington Heights home. Adam worked for the United States Postal Service, and he was a postal supervisor. And he did this. So Adam actually enjoyed a lot of different activities, but what was most noted is that he liked to work on clocks and his major attention that he paid to his children. It was said by his wife that he was the type of dad who really listened to his kids. And I mean, we talking about little kids, so they can drone on forever about nothing.
Everything about nothing.
Everything about nothing.
2 hours then passed and you still don't know what happened.
And he delighted, and it really gave him joy to be around his children. He was generally a happy guy. The people that he worked with said that he was positive and pleasant to be around, and he was just a family man. So at about 11 a.m. on September 29th, Adam bought a 50-count bottle of Tylenol extra strength.
Dang, 50 counts.
Listen.
Some with them 50s, man.
At Jewel Osco on Bell Avenue in Arlington Heights. And at about 2:30 p.m., September 29th, Adam was transported to Northwest Community Hospital in Arlington Heights seeking care because he had also started to have some problems. He actually they didn't say that he collapsed. He was having chest pain. And after that, at about 3:15 p.m. on the same day, September 29th, he was pronounced dead. So he barely even made it an hour before he was gone. And if you actually think about it, it's one, so far, we only have had this little girl, Mary, who was in a similar area. If you are familiar or can pull up a map of the suburbs of Chicago, because these are suburbs of Chicago. You have Elk Grove and Arlington Heights are pretty close.
Next door.
They're neighbors. And these are at this point, no one knows like the Tylenol's bad, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you have two people who, without explanation, have just dropped dead, basically.
Now, do we know why he was taking it?
He, I, I have two different accounts. One, which I believe more than the other. The daughter recently was interviewed of Adam Janice,
Mhm.
and her dad was supposed to pick her up that day from school, and it was said that he was experiencing like cold-like symptoms. He had a headache and some muscle cramp, like body aching.
Mm.
So he might have had like flu-like symptoms as well, is what it sounds like.
The
But
fact that this is all happening on the same day, because it's September 29th, it's the same day as the
mhm.
married chick, makes you think like, was there something in the air that was getting them sick?
And that's exactly where people's minds started to go, because right now, like I said, it's only two people, so it's not anything really to link together.
Yeah.
Even though they are neighbors and next door, and it's all the same
day. They bought
and
from the same store.
two different of the same store, two different locations of the same store,
but Jewel
Jewel
Osco.
Osco. But you also have to remember, this is the 1980s. People don't have cell phones like we do now. They had them big brick cell
Or the
phones,
social media.
but social media wasn't really a thing.
Okay.
So now let's go on to our next victim, Miss Marilyn Rayner. She was born on April 15th, 1955, to Howard and Catherine Fearon. She was one of 8 siblings and was raised in Villa Park. She would go by Lynn, most commonly by the people that knew her and loved her. And as an adult, she married her husband, Edwin, and they had their home in Winfield, Illinois, where they raised their 4 children, ages 9, 8, 1, and 7 days old.
Oh my goodness. She had just had a baby.
Brand new baby. So Lynn was remembered as a loving and devoted mother. That's what she put all of her efforts in, was her children. They said that she always made sure that meals were on the table, and she was an excellent cook. She made sure that her kids were well cared for, helped them with their schoolwork, just made sure that their home was an inviting place where their kids could grow and thrive. But at this point, she had just delivered her new baby that was 7 days old and was experiencing some pain from the delivery. So at 3 p.m. on September 29th, Mary stops by Frank's Finer Foods in Winfield, Illinois, and she also purchases a 50-count bottle.
50-count bottle.
But this one was regular Tylenol, not extra strength. She got regular Tylenol.
She got the old regular.
And then at 3:30, she got home. She opened up her bottle of Tylenol, took that, and subsequently just dropped and passed out. She was just out. By 5 p.m., she was in Central DuPage Hospital in Winfield being cared for. She was in intensive care and on life support for hours. But at 9 p.m., she was pronounced dead.
Insane.
And really, when you think about it, her husband and her children, like, of course, kids are young and they know mommy gave birth. Oh, I have a new sister or brother, whatever, right? But then the husband, what do you
like? How do you
manage? I got 4 kids and one that just came out.
Yeah,
and I still got to deal with the death of my wife.
Yeah, that's a lot. So now we are still on the same day. All this has happened in the same day. We have 3 people who have now taken Tylenol and boop boop hit the ground. Here is where the story gets trippy.
Y'all ain't ready.
So Stanley Janice, who was the brother of Adam Janice, he was born April 6, 1957 in Tarnow, Poland. He was the youngest brother of Adam Janice, and he and his family with his brother moved to the U.S. in 1963. The family settled in Chicago's Northwest Side, and as a transplant, it is said that he really adapted to the U.S. life. Like, He loved being Polish, but he was like, yay, USA. He learned English quickly. He made a lot of friends. He was very active in different sports and activities. But he really just absorbed the US way of life and adapted really well. And even though he did do that, he still held on to his heritage and thought that was very important because he actually got matched up when he was older with a young lady named Teresa Tarzawaski, I think. Taraskowitz. Something. We're sorry if
How
we're
long will
ruining
it
your
take us
name.
to get the last name?
I'm so sorry. Again, I told y'all a long time ago. Just don't even count on me for pronouncing them last names. Okay?
Teresa T.
Teresa T. Her parents were immigrants to the U.S., but they immigrated before she was born. But they also upheld their, that keeping their culture, but still assimilating into the U.S.
Gotcha.
And they were matched up, and it is said that he was like handsome, and Teresa was like all about him. She was like, "Oh,
she like that, my man.
That's my man. And so she really went head over heels into it. She loved his family. She loved his nieces, which were Adams, the brother that died. She loved his kids, and she just was really into family. Now he, at this point, is just happily newly married because they got married in June of 1982. And now we're at September.
So they still in that honeymoon phase. They just like, I love you.
And they went on a honeymoon in Hawaii. So they had a nice honeymoon.
Honeymoon.
So anywho, now we get to, it is 5:40 p.m. September 29th, and Stanley comes into his brother's home, so Adam's house, because he is there trying to wrap his mind around his brother is dead, and he's trying to console his sister-in-law, console his own wife, because they're all torn up. They're all just like, what is happening? And he comes in and he's like, you know what? I have a headache. I just can't. I need a Tylenol. So he takes at least one Tylenol capsule at Adams Arlington Heights home. And then he clutches his chest and drops. At 6:30 p.m. on September 29th, he is now going back to where his brother was, which is Northwest Community Hospital. But after having care for a couple of hours, well, about 1.5 hours, to no avail, his symptoms overtake him, and at 8:15 on the same day, September 29th, he is dead.
Oh, Lord.
Okay, so how many people are we in now?
Right now we are at Mary. We're at Stanley, Adam, Mary Lynn.
So we're at 4.
We're at 4.
So we 4 people in. So
on the same day.
On the same day.
And 2 of them went to the same hospital. Okay. And our brothers.
Right. So this is my thing. So like, I know like in between the time the next people, because I know it's more, but like, you know how like they don't have social media out. They don't have this. I wonder, how did the headlines run in the newspaper that they linked this to Tylenol?
You can see it actually. The headlines now in the newspaper, because what they did, remember how, or I don't know if y'all remember, because y'all, okay, so you're a little bit younger than me. But the way that newspapers used to run was you could get an early edition newspaper. So you have ones that would come out every morning. And then when there was something breaking that happened, they would get the printing presses going. They would make a story. They would have like a shorter version of a headline. And those were called early editions of the newspaper. It wouldn't be a full paper, but it would be something. It would have some advertisements in it, and it would have a headline that would run. So they do have, if anyone is interested in seeing them, which we can post that, like a link to it. But they have articles with the postings. Let me pull it up real quick.
While you're pulling that up, here's the crazy thing. So Mary Kellerman, the 12-year-old, she died in the morning of the 29th, right? Then we have Adam, who died at 3:15 p.m. Right when he was dying is the time that Lynn was taking the Tylenol. Because she took it around between 3 and 3:30. So at the same time he was dying from it, she took it. Yeah. And she died at 5. Then it was
the brother Stanley.
It was around 5:40 p.m. that Stanley took the Tylenol.
So he taking it while she dying.
Yeah, while she died. So it's like, even if it was hitting the news, by the time the person is dead and they figured out what it was they took, it's too late. It's too late because they didn't already took it and they already on their way to the hospital. They already comatose or whatever the case may be.
Excuse me. So, on Chicago Tribune's website, you can go to, they have a 40th anniversary article that you can actually see the way that they wrote about it. And the articles, they go as such. Hold on. Waiting for it to pull up. So, the headline that day read, oh, hold on. My bad. Wrong one.
They always be like, news travels fast.
Right. Not fast enough.
At that time, it really didn't travel fast enough. So
it didn't travel at all.
Right. It was just. So here's what the article on Chicago Tribune read. The first thing at the top was it had the date. It had Chicago 5-star final, and then it had the first headline was U.S. Marine killed in Lebanon. And you can read about that. But then right up under it in a bigger, bolder text is 5 deaths tied to pills. Fear killer put cyanide in Tylenol.
That's fucking crazy.
They have the pictures of the bottles and what the pills would look like.
I wonder what did the pill capsules look like over time.
There was changes. There were changes because of this. So we'll get to that eventually too, but that's really what it was. The article, you can see the article with the pictures of the people at the pharmacy and the police and investigating and asking questions of the pharmacist. You can see the pills, and then they have an actual map, a grid. You see that?
Oh, wow.
Where it shows the areas things were purchased.
Damn. All right, so we know that Stanley and Teresa had both came to the house, because Adam had passed. At this point, we know Stanley has taken some Tylenol, but here's the kicker. Teresa also had a headache and took some Tylenol as well. She was born June 23rd, 1962. She grew up in Lisle. She attended Illinois Benedictine College and was majoring in business. It was at 5:40 p.m. September 29th that she took a capsule of extra strength Tylenol and complained of chest pain. And then 6:30 p.m. September 29th, her and her husband were both at Northwest Community Hospital receiving care. And it was 1:15 p.m. October 1st that she was pronounced dead. So her husband Stanley died the night of the 29th. She lasted until the afternoon of October 1st. So what's that?
2 more days. Yeah.
And that's when she was pronounced dead. But could you imagine that you're coming somewhere because your brother has just passed and you're like, what in the world? You're showing up at the hospital. You were at the hospital because he passed suddenly,
mysteriously.
He's comatose. You go back to his house, probably just take it in. And you're like, this is just too overwhelming. My head hurts. I'm tired. I just want to lay down, take a nap. And
take a Tylenol, lay down.
And I'm sure, Teresa, she had a relationship with Adam as well, but I'm sure she was more, hurting because her husband is hurting.
Right. And, you think about the fact that the families were very intertwined. So these are families that are Polish. Shout out to our lovely people of Polish descent. But family is extremely important with them. Yeah. And, it's not like how some people are like, oh, that's my mother-in-law. She over there. Yeah. These are people who lived on the same street as their family.
Yeah.
These are people who when you are talking about their overall daily activities, Teresa made sure that she was with Adam's kids, and the kids were very like, I want her attention. I love her. She makes us feel so important. And they loved family. They invested in their family. So yes, she's hurting because that's her husband's brother, but not just because of that, but because
she's built a relationship with them as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like that's crazy. And you get there, you take Tylenol, and then you're both rushed to the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
He dies, and then she dies.
And think about Adam. So this is the first brother that died. Think about his wife. Yeah. What she's thinking, like,
oh, this is happening in my house.
Wouldn't you be terrified? I wouldn't even want to be up in there. Take me out, take my kids out. We got to go. I don't know what is going on in this home, but we gotta go.
We moving
now.
Leave the Tylenol.
Leave all the shit.
Everything but the Tylenol.
But you know what's crazy? This reminds me. Now that I'm thinking about it, I remember a few years ago. I'm not saying where I work.
Mm-hmm.
So
but one of those places,
y'all won't come for me and dox me or whatever. But they did a big ass recall on Excedrin. Y'all don't remember that a couple years ago when you could not find,
you couldn't get it on the shelf.
yeah. So it just made me think, like, damn, did this same shit happen? But then again, they already had the tamper-proof pill bottles and tops and stuff.
And the reason why they had those cotton balls, because if someone goes to inject something, it should absorb into that.
Yeah. So it just made me think. Now I'm like, now I want to go and look and see why was Excedrin, because Excedrin, they took everything.
I remember because at that time I was working at a facility for people who have poor kidney function. And one of my coworkers, she always had back pain, but that was what she used. She could not, Tylenol wouldn't touch it, ibuprofen wouldn't touch it. She used Excedrin. That was her pill that worked for her. And she couldn't find it. She would be around work miserable. And she was like, I just don't know. This Excedrin thing is ridiculous. And what ended up happening was that she had to get like a back brace and something else just to make it through the day, but still had pain.
So it says the plastic bottles pose the poisoning risk if there's a hole, because a child may be able to get into the caplets and swallow them. So
it was like a bottle.
Yeah, and that Excedrin is through GlaxoSmithKline, I think. So not Johnson and Johnson.
Okay.
But yeah, they all of it got recalled. Like,
so they had a defect on how they made that pill bottle.
Yeah. So it was like Excedrin got different variations. They got the migraine. They got the
shout out
they got everything. And sometimes, like, I know I had those crippling migraines because especially when I switch my glasses, I get a migraine so bad until my eyes get adjusted to the new prescription. And Excedrin is the only thing they had no Excedrin anywhere. I went to Walgreens, I went to Target, I went to CVS, everywhere, nothing.
And I think like a lot of times too, Excedrin, because it has that caffeine in it, like especially if you're going through caffeine withdrawals, you take one of those. It's not as much caffeine, but it'll help.
Yeah. And so yeah, at this point we know that Teresa and Stanley have both passed. We get to our next victim.
Oh, just a little interlude. So in the papers and in the headlines and what was happening. So now we have 5 people have died from this, right? And because 3 of these victims were all at that Northwest Community Hospital, the public health department was actually called, because now we're at a almost what would you call it? A serial killer level, because I think you only need 3 people to die to be hit onto the serial killer side. And at this point they don't know it's a killer because they don't know what has happened. They just know that we have 3 people from one family that died within a 3-day span of each other. And 2 died on the same day. So they were thinking, this was the mindset of the investigators and the hospital officials and things. They were thinking there has to be something in that house that is tainted, because you have 3 people all from the same home in the situation we just explained. So they send out, and I'm sure that this still happens today. I just don't know if it's done in the same manner. But the health department, when it comes to anything that can affect the public, if they think that, like, think about anthrax. When anthrax was a thing, you had the health department that investigated it. Then when they see that there's a criminal activity, then they'll call in the Federal Bureau of Investigation or the local police or whatever. But when it comes to something that is affecting people overall in their health, they will call the health department. And they have nurses that are employed by them. And shout out to our girl. Her name was Helen, and she is the person who is credited with breaking the getting to the bottom of what she felt was causing this. So when she was called out to investigate what was going on in the Janice's household, she went through and she's looking through everything, looking through cupboards, looking through drawers, looking to see if any kind of odd smells are coming from their water heater, or just walking through the home and trying to see if any, like, if there's food that's outdated, right? What she did find is she found a brand new bottle of Tylenol that was open, and when she opened it, it had an odd smell of almond, which we all know is a indicator of cyanide. And she noted that there were 6 pills missing. So she then has these capsules sent on over to the hospital for investigation, and she was the one who broke open that this Tylenol, like, is tainted. Okay, so she is credited, and that is Miss Helen Jensen, and she was in the Arlington Heights Public Health Department.
Okay. Oh, for those that don't know, cyanide is a like rapid acting, it's a deadly chemical that interferes with like the body's ability to use oxygen.
Okay, yeah.
And so that's just for anybody that didn't know. But we do have our next victim. Her name was Mary. All these Marys.
I know, it was getting the Mary's girl.
Man.
What did Mary ever do to y'all?
Right? I'm just Mary, just Mary, just Mary. So Mary McFarland was born December 7th, 1950 in Chicago to John and Jane.
Isn't that cute?
It is cute. Eliason. She was raised in Elmhurst with her 4 siblings. In her adulthood, she worked as a sales rep at Illinois Bell Telephone Store that was located in Lombard, Illinois. She was said to be a loving mother. She had 2 sons, Ryan and Brad, who were 4 and 2 at the time. Oh, they were still at the cute age.
Girl, when they love you, want to hug you and tell you you're so great.
I love you. Her children were her everything. She was known for sharing stories of her boys and like their adventures. They would go swimming, zoos, all type of activities, local parks. You know, your typical mom trying to keep her toddlers
occupied, busy, tired out,
of energy. Girl. Yes, because we need naps. We celebrate naps over here. We are a firm believer in nap.
Yes, nap time is great time.
Her children were her everything. And so then 6:35 p.m. September 29th, same day, and this is around the same time that Teresa and Stanley were being transported to the hospital. She starts to feel dizzy, and she decides, she tells her colleague at work she's feeling dizzy. She takes a Tylenol at her workplace, and like soon after, she collapsed. The paramedics arrived about 2 minutes later.
So they were on it.
They were on it. Probably because this is not the first call they've gotten today.
Yeah, and they're like,
of somebody we need collapsing out of nowhere. So they know we ain't got much time. So 7:22 p.m. September 29th, she was at Downers Grove Good Samaritan Hospital receiving care. It was 3:18 in the morning on September 30th that she was pronounced dead. And then we have Paula Prince, was born November 21st, 1946 in Nebraska. She was the youngest of Margaret Prince's 4 children. She was a United Airlines flight attendant, and the way they described her, she was like a strikingly beautiful blonde.
She was a bombshell. She's a little baddie.
She lived in a high-rise condo in Chicago Old Town neighborhood. She was a single woman, just living her best single life.
Yes, come on, single people, let's do it,
man. And so she had recently started an event planning business with some of her friends. And so she was happy. She entrepreneur. She, looking towards her future and the things to come. Her friends stated that she had hopes of marriage and starting a family in the future, but she was just living life, having a good time. It was 9:16 p.m. September 29th that Paula buys a 24 count of extra strength Tylenol at Walgreens on Wells Street in Chicago. 9:30 p.m. September 29th, she takes Tylenol at her Chicago apartment. 5:40 p.m. October 1st, her lifeless body in her was found in her apartment, and she was pronounced dead at 6:45 p.m. So she never made it to the hospital. Nope. She lived alone, and so she took this Tylenol in her home and collapsed, and they found her body days later.
And I really wondered too, like when I was looking at this, because these are stamped things that were entered as just information on the Chicago Tribune's in-depth article that they did about this story. And I was wondering, like, well, how did they know that at 9:30 she took a pill in her apartment? And I wonder if she was like some of the others who was feeling some symptoms of something. She had friends she was starting a business with. What if she was on the phone with them and told them, I ain't feeling good, I'm gonna take a Tylenol.
Yeah.
So she took something, and then lo and behold, a couple days later, nobody's able to get a hold of her. They're like, what is going on? And they go to her apartment and find her.
Yeah, or they could have done it by like a time of death thing. Like, they found this woman in her body. They're trying to figure out what's happening. Okay, let's see if we can look at records to figure out where she was last. She was at this gas station. What did she purchase from this gas station? She purchased Tylenol at 9-something p.m. We figure she make it home. She probably took the Tylenol around this time because this is how long she's been dead. And rigor mortis.
And the pill isn't all the way dissolved or something like that. Yeah, but it's just it's very sad. All these people really just from no other thing besides taking Tylenol died.
One thing that like I was looking at when I was reading through is how they come up with their own like hypothesis of like the police was like, well, maybe somebody took it off the shelf and switched out the pills and put the cyanide pills in it. And it was another one where they were saying like they started putting it under like heavy surveillance, and then they saw a bearded man go into a store and switch out pills, and it was just like different things instead of blaming the company itself. Like they took the blame off of the company.
What it was these pills were manufactured. They were all manufactured in Texas. Okay. Yeah. So what they know about cyanide is fast acting, but it's not long lasting. So you are going to get those fast results of if you give somebody cyanide,
fast result of death.
Right. Fast results. We give it to you a couple hours, you go. Might as well just chalk that up.
Bye. You're done.
But they know that if you have cyanide, it doesn't hold well. Like you can't put it down and say, oh, 2 weeks later after I ship it, it's still gonna be good.
That's what I was about to say. So the chances of it happening in Texas at the factory and then getting shipped to Illinois and then being put on shelves and then
sold and then taken, it doesn't work that way.
It would have had to be. I mean, unless it was like at the local distributor.
Even then, because they say that the cyanide will only hold up the way that one that was utilized, that would only hold for about 24 hours where it would work in the way of killing someone. So you can't have it manufactured or distributed.
How would a person get away with this?
Well, it was a different time. I mean, we can actually speak to that. So when you have Tylenol and now it has a top that you have to peel. It'll have a cotton ball. The way that pills were before, you barely had childproof safety caps. And you open it up and there were the pills. There was nothing impeding. You just take it. If you were in the store and you had a headache, you could pop one out of there, take a pill. Nobody know. Okay. So now let's get to really because there were all types of shenanigans that were happening in the midst of all of this. There were theories about what happened, who did it. They were really investigating and trying to figure out what was happening. In the process of all these people dying from taking tainted Tylenol, pills were recalled. And at first it started with like stores in the Midwest pulling their Tylenol off their shelves at grocery stores. Then it spread because once they had gotten at first, all the pills had come from in the first 5 deaths had come from the same lot number. Mm-hmm. But then when you got down to Miss Mary McFarland and Paula, their lot numbers were different, which then expanded the search of what or who was responsible for these killings. And also, Paula was in a completely different area. People who are not familiar with Chicago, we said Arlington Heights, Elk Grove, Elmhurst, all that stuff is in kind of an area. But when you're talking about living downtown Chicago in the old town area, you are literally in Chicago proper, and you are in a neighborhood, not a suburb of Chicago. So that's miles away. So now we're getting into it has to be coming from something different, they're thinking. So there's lots of speculation. They're pulling pills. Everybody's scared. They're telling kids don't take anything. They even thought down to like maybe it was someone that was just poisoning things. So then they were afraid for kids to get candy or accept candy from strangers because we're getting to Halloween, all those things. But they get a little bit of a break in the story, and it comes from a letter that was sent to Johnson and Johnson by a anonymous sender. And I have the letter for those who want to hear. Johnson and Johnson, parent company of McNeil Laboratories, gentlemen, because they don't think no ladies work there.
Gentlemen.
As you have seen, it is easy to place cyanide, both potassium and sodium, into capsules sitting on store shelves. And since the cyanide is inside the gelatin, it is easy to get buyers to swallow the bitter pill. Another beauty is that cyanide operates quickly. It takes very little, and there will be no time to take countermeasures. If you do not mind the publicity of the little capsule, then do nothing. So far, I have spent less than $50, and it takes me less than 10 minutes per bottle. If you want to stop the killings, then wire me $1 million. $1 million to bank account number 84-49-57 or 597. Yeah,
Hold on, nigga. Ain't they shit attached to your name?
Listen. At Continental Illinois Bank of Chicago, Illinois. Do not attempt to involve the FBI or local Chicago authorities.
Because we ain't got our own people that's smart enough.
A couple of phone calls by me will undo anything you could possibly do. So,
Mr. $1 million.
Mr. $1 million. So let's get it. Dr. Evil himself. Let me tell y'all about the investigation on trying to figure out who sent this letter that didn't take them very long.
So they had basically ended up with 3 suspects, right?
They had, I think it was 3 suspects total, but Captain Dum Dum, who wrote this letter
with his banking information,
with
his fingerprints,
with
his social security number, with a picture of himself
and a blood
anonymously,
and a blood sample,
and a blood sample.
Okay, and he told y'all about how long it took him to do the crimes.
Yeah.
So, but here's the kicker: when they go, because this information is given, they go on over to Chicago. What is that? To Continental Illinois Banking Company in Chicago.
Go to that name real quick.
Right, I'm gonna need y'all to run me and tell me whose account is this.
Don't you tell nobody. Don't reach out to nobody. Okay, so Chicago.
That's the first thing we gonna do, motherfucker.
So they look it up, and does anyone have any guesses on whose account this was? Because it ain't who you think. We know who the suspect is. Y'all can probably look it up if y'all look. But do you know whose account this was?
Roger Arnold.
No.
Oh.
It was an heir to the Miller Brewing Company's checking account.
Now what they got to do with anything?
Listen, okay.
Wait a minute.
So the writer of this fine letter was James Lewis. He was a man who was married to Mrs. Lewis, his wife, worked for this gentleman that was inherited.
So he was just in her papers.
He was doing some straight up revenge shit. Okay. His wife worked for this heir of the Miller Brewing Company. And he was mad because he let his wife go and didn't give her her last check. So he was like,
I'm finna set you up for murder and give me $1 million.
And, once it was found out whose account it was, authorities quickly understood this man ain't trying to get nothing for $1 million. He got $100 million. He don't need.
He needed that extra meal.
He don't need that meal. He don't need
a millionaire. I'm a young.
And so then when they are going through it, they go and get Mr. Dum Dum himself.
Oh, stupid ass.
Right. This little childish letter. Wrote it with a crayon probably. But anyway, so they go get him and they're like, what's up with this letter, dude? This is not what you done did. And he's like, I didn't do anything. I swear, officer.
It wasn't me.
It wasn't me. Well, why did you write the letter? Because I just had to get him back. He should have paid her money when she was gone. Like, it was already bad enough you fired her. Now you're not going to give her a check. Cheap ass. Like,
I'm not going to lie. If you don't give me my check, we're going to have problems.
Yeah, but I'm not setting you up for no
damn.
Might. Oh. Well, then you might have an outcome that Mr. Lewis found.
I'll be a little bit smarter than that.
Right?
You ain't going to be able to trace it back to me.
This dude, because he was an idiot, he swore up and down to the time he got out of prison, because he actually did go to jail behind this, because they were serious. They were looking for the perpetrator of these crimes.
Right, but they didn't actually charge him for the Tylenol murders.
They charged him for a conspiracy. Yeah. And with that, for making a false claim. So he actually went to jail in relation to, but not because of, the murders of these people with Tylenol. And again, he swore up into the end, very end. He didn't do it. He was just pissed and he wanted that other one to go to jail. Now, there are many other theories. Now, some people do believe that he did this because they're like, well, how would you know what was going on with how the pills were? Because before this information was released about the 2 different types of cyanide and about how the bottles were tampered with, they're like, how would you know this? Right. But other people believe that it was very unlikely that someone could come into these stores and under disguise,
go to each individual bottle
and pick it up, poison it, or switch it out
without getting caught.
Right. Because the pharmacist is gonna be like, what you doing over? Like, you've been looking at it a long time. Somebody in the store.
No, it just, I don't know.
Odd.
It could happen. It just doesn't seem like the likeliest thing to happen.
So then we have another suspect, which is thought he was a driver for.
He did it.
Girl, baby, he might have. But
guilty.
And in his case, he was investigated, and I really don't know how the police came to the conclusion that he was not responsible, because there was cyanide that was actually found in his house.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm like, now come on, smoking guns.
They had evidence that he had purchased large quantities of cyanide. So, about 6 months before the poisonings happened.
Right.
Like, they ain't suspects to nobody.
I don't understand how that couldn't be, but the person who wrote a revenge letter is definitely it. He did it.
He had a book
he did that shit.
called The Poor Man's James Bond, which described how to make potassium cyanide.
Yeah.
In his house.
So
he had vials, beakers, test tubes.
To me, he seemed like the likely candidate for he done did it. And he was an angered individual. So you add those 2 together, you have means because you have the cyanide, you have a motive because you're pissed off, and you have an opportunity too. So I just don't understand why they never linked. Maybe because during the times of when they thought that the pills should have been tampered with. I really don't know.
This might be a case where they slipped the ball.
They might have dropped the ball a little bit.
They let him. Well, they didn't let him go because he ended up going to jail.
Yeah,
for unrelated.
Yeah, he got his comeuppance.
Yeah, but what's crazy is that he went. The reason why he did go to jail is he went looking for the guy who he felt, because basically it was like colleagues and stuff that had told the police, like, this is the guy you want to look at.
Mm-hmm, yes.
He went to go find the guy that he thought was the one that called the police and killed them.
Mm-hmm.
Come to find out it wasn't the guy that called the police.
So if that ain't motive enough either, like, you going to kill people because they said.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So he ended up doing 30 years for that.
Good for him.
And now he's dead.
So sad.
But like you said, I don't know why, but he was ruled out for the Tylenol murders. I don't know why, but he was.
So, anyways, as always, there will be links to all of these things so you can go look at them for yourself and see the happenings of the world. But that concludes the story of the Tylenol murders. Are there any thoughts, ladies, that you want to share?
This shit is so fucked up. Like
it really is.
It is so fucked up. And also on Paramount Plus, we were just talking about it earlier. They actually have the Tylenol murders like documentary on there. So check that out. It's all fucked up all together. Like,
and also it's on A&E. It's with Lawrence Fishburne, and it's a unsolved mysteries kind of case review. It's in the season 3 like maybe 5th or 6th episode, and he discusses and follows the Tylenol murders and what was happening during that time.
Real quick,
yeah.
Did y'all know that Lewis was also the suspect in another case?
Girl, because he's stupid.
In a 1978 murder case in Kansas City that was dismissed on a technicality. He was accused of murdering and dismembering an older man named Raymond West in connection with a fraud scheme. He had been working as a tax accountant in Kansas City, and West was one of his clients. West's body was found in the attic of his home. His legs had been cut off. The rest of his body was stuffed in a plastic bag. And was like, it had so badly decomposed that the coroner couldn't actually determine the cause of death.
Oh man.
One of the detectives who was assigned to the homicide unit spoke with both Edwards, like they had spoke with each other trying to figure out what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
Barton became involved when West's body was found in the attic. And so it says that a game hoist was used to haul the body up into the attic. So he used like a hoist levy pulley machine.
That's crazy. That's why they was on him so tough. They was like, we missed you on that one. We getting you.
Bell told Edwards he did not remember the hoist, but he does remember the ropes and knots, specifically the knots used to tie up West's body. He said the same knots were found in the trunk of Lewis's car.
Mm-hmm.
I know my way around knots. I was in the Navy. I was a sailor. That's what Bell said.
Mm-hmm.
He said, and I could tell this was not a run-of-the-mill knot. This knot required a little bit of know-how and how to tie knots. Whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Not. So they continue to go all through all that. It says that Lewis was indicted in the case, but it never went to trial.
Mm-hmm.
The charges were dropped. The reason was that a judge ruled police had failed to read Lewis his Miranda rights.
Damn.
So the evidence was obtained illegally.
Good night.
And the bail guy, the coroner, whatever, he says, just another one of the fuck-ups that plagued this case.
Baby.
And so, yeah.
Human error is rough because lots of people get off when they should be sitting under the damn jail.
He was involved with connected to a lot of crimes, but he always just kind of like
skated out.
Yep, kind of got skated out of him.
Well, that's why he went to jail on some shit he didn't even really do.
Yeah, in 2004, he was charged with raping and kidnapping a woman in Cambridge, but it was dismissed the day before the trial when the victim suddenly refused to testify.
Oh, he was just a piece of shit.
In 2009, FBI agents searched Lewis' apartment in Cambridge, removing boxes of evidence. And earlier this year, Edwards traveled to Boston to find Lewis. So he just basically had.
You know what? He was like the original Zimmerman.
Yeah.
He like, oh, I got off with that. Watch what I can do. Look at me. Look, guys, look what I can do. Yeah, no. Horrible piece of shit.
That's the best way to put it.
Mm-hmm.
So this concludes today's episode. So if you have any cases you want to hear about, if you have any constructive criticism, some feedback, a shout out, a case you might want to hear, let us know. Email us at merkinthemidwest@gmail.com. And also follow us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Spotify, Apple, Amazon Music, Audible, and iHeartRadio. Bye.
Bye.